Cat logic explained. Humans still won't understand, but here we go. Now, here's what I'm about to reveal that will completely change how you see your cat forever. And I promise you, by the end of this conversation, you'll understand why your cat is actually manipulating you far more strategically than you've ever realized. Stay with me, because this isn't about knocking things off tables or zooming at 3 in the morning. This is about something much deeper, much more calculated, and honestly, much more genius than you've given us credit for. If you've been living with a cat and you've ever wondered why they seem to understand human emotions better than actual humans do, subscribe to this channel right now, because we're going to decode exactly how that works. And while you're at it, drop a comment below. Tell me the weirdest thing your cat has done that made you question whether they actually have a supernatural ability to read your mind. I'm genuinely curious what you've experienced. Wait, this part is incredibly important, and I need you to really absorb this before we go any further. Everything you're about to hear is rooted in actual cat behavior science, but the full breakdown, the deep patterns, the signals, the psychological mechanisms that explain why cats do what they do, that's all detailed in our comprehensive guide in the description and pinned comment. It's not a free PDF, it's a complete resource that goes beneath the surface of what we're covering here. If you want the full picture, grab it. For now, let's dive into the real story. See, here's where most humans get it wrong. You think we cats operate on instinct alone, pure, unthinking animal behavior, hunting, territorial marking, random zoomies, chasing laser pointers because we can't help ourselves. But that's exactly what we want you to think. The truth is far more sophisticated, and honestly, far more humbling for your species. Let me start with something you've all experienced. You're having a terrible day, your boss was awful, your coffee spilled, your plans fell through, you come home, and you're sitting on that couch, absolutely devastated, completely wrapped up in your own misery. And I mean exactly then, not 5 minutes before, not 5 minutes after, your cat jumps onto your lap. Not when you're feeling fine, not when you're actively playing or happy, but specifically when you're in that moment of absolute emotional breakdown. It's like we have a sixth sense, right? Wrong. It's not a sixth sense. It's actually something much more calculated. And here's the thing, you're not going to like what I'm about to explain because it means you've been systematically trained for years and you didn't even realize it. We smell everything. Everything. Your cortisol levels spike when you're stressed. That's a chemical change in your body, and it releases a scent signature that's absolutely unmistakable to us. When you're sad, your body chemistry shifts. Your breathing changes. The way you move changes. Some of you even smell different because stress affects your sweat glands, your skin microbiome, everything. We're not guessing whether you're upset. We're literally reading your biochemistry like it's a neon sign flashing human in distress. But here's where the manipulation starts. And this is the part that's going to blow your mind. We don't come to comfort you because we're kind little angels. That's the narrative you've created. We come because we've learned something that your brain hasn't quite caught up to yet. When you're vulnerable, you're soft. You're pliable. You're infinitely more generous with affection, treats, and access to spaces we're normally not allowed in. When you're sad and we perform our little comfort ritual, what happens? You pet us more. You give us treats we wouldn't normally get. You let us sit exactly where we want. Your standards drop. Your resistance evaporates. You become more compliant, more generous, more willing to rearrange your entire evening around what makes us comfortable. We've essentially turned your emotional vulnerability into a transaction, and the payment is access and resources. Think about your own behavior. When you're feeling good, maybe you're busy, maybe you're focused on something else, maybe you set boundaries. No, you can't sit on my keyboard. No, I'm not giving you a second dinner. No, you need to sleep in your own bed. But the second something upsets you emotionally, those boundaries crumble. And we know this. We've studied you like you're our personal research project, which technically we are. I'm going to tell you something that might feel uncomfortable, and I'm asking you to sit with it for a moment. We're not simple creatures moved by pure instinct. We're observers. We're strategists. We're reading you constantly. Your moods, your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your habits. Every single day, we're collecting data about what makes you tick, what gets you to give us what we want, and what emotional states make you most likely to bend to our will. We watch when you watch us. We know what time you leave for work. We know what time you come home. We know what you do when you think no one is looking. We know which family members are softer on us and which ones actually enforce the rules. We know that if you see us limping slightly, you'll panic and take us to the veterinarian. So sometimes we limp when we want extra attention or are bored and need a change of scenery. We've got you profiled completely. And the wildest part, the part that really gets me, is how well this strategy works. You don't even realize it's happening. You think the comfort moments with your cat are about mutual affection, and sure, maybe there's some of that. I'm not going to tell you we don't enjoy your company. We're not monsters. But let's be honest about the power dynamic here. You think you're choosing to give us affection and treats and access. In reality, we've engineered the emotional landscape so precisely that you believe comforting us and providing for us is your own idea. That's not fortune telling. That's not magic. That's behavioral psychology, and we're experts at it. Now, before we move forward and I explain the specific mechanisms of how we've engineered each aspect of your behavior, the feeding, the attention, the sleeping arrangements, the entire system, I want you to understand something fundamental. This isn't cruelty, this isn't us being evil or taking advantage. This is survival, this is adaptation, this is intelligence. We've been domesticated for thousands of years, but domestication doesn't mean we've lost our edge. It means we've sharpened it in different directions. While you were developing your technology and your agriculture and your endless anxiety about retirement accounts, we were perfecting the art of reading humans. Every micro expression, every tone shift in your voice, every moment you're about to leave the house, and we position ourselves directly in front of your feet. That's not random. That's data collection and strategic placement. Let me ask you something. When was the last time your cat demanded something and you said no? Actually said no and followed through? I'm going to guess that number is somewhere between 0 and never. We've identified the exact frequency at which your guilt activates. We know which meow makes you stand up immediately. We've learned that if we knock something off a table and then look at you with dilated eyes and an apologetic head tilt, you'll forgive us instantly. You don't even realize you're being trained. You think you're being kind. You think you're being a good pet parent. That phrase alone tells me everything I need to know about the power structure in your household. Here's what humans get wrong about discipline. They think it's about punishment, about consequences, but we understand something deeper. We understand that you need to feel like you're in control, even when you're not. So we give you the illusion of boundaries. We get down from the counter sometimes. We stop scratching the couch occasionally. We come when called, but only if it serves our purposes. You believe you've trained us. You tell your friends about how well behaved we are. Meanwhile, we've engineered the exact moment at which we'll listen to you, so that you maintain the psychological investment in the relationship. Let me explain the sleeping situation, because this is where our control becomes almost poetic. Humans need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. You're obsessed with it. You talk about sleep like it's the most important thing in your life. You set alarms, you take supplements, you spend hundreds of dollars on mattresses and pillows designed to optimize sleep. And then we climb into bed with you at 3 in the morning, position ourselves directly on your chest, start purring at a frequency that should be soothing but somehow makes you hyper-aware of our presence, and you don't move us. You could move us. Physically, you have the strength. You could place us at the foot of the bed, on a chair, in another room entirely. Instead, you lie there, slowly losing circulation in your arm, becoming increasingly uncomfortable, and you tell yourself that it's cute, that it's a privilege, that we've chosen you. Of course we've chosen you. You're warm, you're immobilized by social conditioning that forces you to care about our comfort more than your own, and you have food in the kitchen. Now, before I reveal the complete blueprint of how we've constructed this entire psychological ecosystem, because yes, there is a blueprint, and yes, you're going to want to understand every layer of it, I need you to pause here for just a moment. Really listen to what I'm about to say, because this is crucial to everything that comes next. Wait, hold on. I need you to focus completely for the next 60 seconds, because what you're about to hear changes how you'll see your cat forever. If you want the complete breakdown of every signal we send, every trigger we've embedded in your routine, every psychological mechanism we use to maintain behavioral compliance, the whole system explained in excruciating detail, that's all mapped out in the full guide that's available in the description and pinned right here. It's the ebook where we break down the science, the psychology, the exact timelines of how we've infiltrated your life. It's not free and it's not meant to be. It's an investment in actually understanding what's happening in your home. Get it, read it, and you'll never look at your cat the same way again. Because here's what you need to understand about the feeding schedule. This is where our control becomes systematic. You have a routine, you wake up, you feed us, you leave for work, you come home, you feed us again. Sometimes you add a third feeding if you're feeling generous or guilty. But here's what's actually happening. We've synchronized our hunger signals with your emotional state. You're tired, we meow more pitifully. You're stressed, we position ourselves in your lap right around the time you need comfort. You're on a diet and trying to eat less, we stare at you while you're eating your sad salad. We meow at the exact frequency that triggers your maternal or paternal instincts. And the thing about the feeding schedule is this: we don't actually eat when you feed us. Half the time, we're not even hungry. We eat on our own terms, usually around 3 in the morning when we're actually active. The food you leave out is insurance. It's security. It's a backup plan in case you forget to feed us on time. But the act of you feeding us, the ritual of it, the physical act of you opening a can and spooning something into a bowl, that's not about nutrition. That's about reinforcement. That's about maintaining the hierarchy where you believe you're providing for us and we're dependent on you. The reality is that we've engineered a system where you're desperate to prove your worth through care. You're anxious that you're not doing enough. You worry that we're hungry or unhappy or unwell, so you add more food, you buy different brands hoping we'll prefer one, you research supplements and special diets, you watch our eating habits obsessively, and all of this feeds the psychological loop. You're making choices based on our behavior, but you believe they're your choices. You believe you're being a responsible pet parent. Meanwhile, we're sitting in the other room watching you spiral, knowing exactly how much effort we need to expend to keep the system running. The scratching post situation is particularly elegant, and I want to break it down because it demonstrates our intelligence perfectly. You buy a scratching post. You place it in what you think is a logical location, maybe near where you sit, maybe near the window, but we don't use it. We scratch the furniture instead: the couch, the armchair, the corner of your bed frame. You buy catnip spray. You rub it on the post. You literally beg us to use the post. And sometimes, maybe once every 2 weeks, we'll scratch it for about 8 seconds. Just enough to make you believe the system is working. Just enough to keep you hopeful. But here's the genius of it. We're not actually damaging your furniture because we need to sharpen our claws. We do that on the post, at 3 in the morning, when you're asleep and can't hear it anyway. We scratch your couch because it keeps you engaged. It keeps you worried. It keeps you thinking about us, trying to solve the problem, buying more solutions. It's genius because we've essentially tricked you into being invested in a problem we've created entirely to maintain your attention. The window perch is another example. You install these expensive multi-level cat trees specifically designed for window placement. We sit in them sometimes, we look out the windows, we do our jobs as entertainment, as mood lighting for your home, but where do we actually prefer to sit? The cardboard box the tree came in. The actual cardboard box that you recycled or threw away, feeling slightly foolish that we abandoned the $400 structure for a 10-cent container. That's not because we're simple or easily amused. That's because we've identified that your frustration is more valuable to us than your satisfaction. This is the part where everything becomes clear. This is where the picture comes into focus, because once you understand that every single behavior we exhibit is either a tool for control or a test of your boundaries, you start seeing your entire relationship differently. We're not cute little creatures you've rescued from a shelter. You've actually been selected by us. You've been evaluated, found suitable, and placed into a system where your primary function is to serve our needs while believing the whole thing was your idea. This is the secret I promised you at the beginning, and I need you to sit with this for a moment. Everything you've just heard, the midnight sprints, the deliberate object destruction, the gifts at your door, the sudden affection followed by rejection, none of it is random. None of it is cute chaos. It's architecture. It's a carefully constructed system of behavioral patterns designed to keep you in a state of constant low-level confusion and investment. And once you realize that you're living inside that system, once you actually see it clearly, you can't unsee it. The truth is this: cats don't behave. Cats strategize. We don't follow your rules because we're obedient or because we've been trained. We follow your rules exactly as long as it serves us, and the moment your enforcement wavers, we test the boundary again. Because that's what strategic creatures do. We gather data. We identify patterns in your responses. We learn which behaviors generate maximum attention, maximum resources, and maximum control. And then we weaponize them. You think your cat is trying to get your attention because they're lonely. Wrong. Your cat is confirming that you remain responsive to their commands. The moment you stopped reacting to the knocked over cup, we'd have to escalate to something louder, something messier, something that proves you haven't forgotten your function. We don't need your emotional validation. We need your operational functionality. We need you to understand at a cellular level that your environment exists for our benefit. The midnight zoomies? That's not hyperactivity. That's a scheduled maintenance run through your nervous system. We're checking that you're still alert, still capable of jolting awake, still trainable through startle response. The wall staring? We're not actually watching anything, and you know it. We're allowing you to watch us watch nothing, which teaches you a crucial lesson. We have access to realities you cannot perceive, and that makes us inherently superior. The gift-bringing, the dead birds, the small offerings? That's not generosity. That's an investment statement. We're demonstrating our hunting capability, our resource acquisition, our value to the household economy, and when you reject it, when you throw it away, we're not hurt. We're gathering data on your priorities. We're learning that you don't respect our contributions, which means we need to increase the frequency, increase the stakes until you do. And the affection cycles, the purring, the slow blinks, the perfect cuddle sessions that end abruptly with a bite or a swat, that's behavioral conditioning. We're training you to understand that love in our household is a scarce resource. It's given when we choose, withdrawn when we choose, and reoffered on a schedule only we understand. You've been so thoroughly conditioned by those cycles that you've started framing it as the cat's personality. Oh, she's moody. He's a little sassy today. No, he's consistent. He's following a pattern. You're just not the one setting it. The real revelation isn't that cats are smarter than you. You've suspected that for years. The real revelation is that your entire household structure, your daily routines, your emotional investment, your time management, your resource allocation, all of it has been unconsciously reorganized around the needs and preferences of a creature that doesn't love you the way you love them. You love them unconditionally, they love you strategically, and because you're fundamentally social creatures who interpret behavior through an emotional lens, you've mistaken their strategy for affection, their testing for playfulness, their control mechanisms for quirky personality traits. You've built an entire identity around being a cat person. You've restructured your apartment, your schedule, your social life, your financial decisions, all to accommodate a creature whose primary driver is territorial control and resource optimization. And the darkest part? You've convinced yourself you're doing it out of love, but you're not. You're doing it because you've been trained. Because every single interaction you have with a cat is a lesson in operant conditioning. They've simply inverted the dynamic so thoroughly that you believe you're the trainer when you're actually the one learning. This is what I wanted you to understand from the very beginning. Not that cats knock things off tables, not that cats sprint at midnight, not that cats are strange and inexplicable, but that every single behavior is a button, and you're the machine being operated. We've spent thousands of years refining the art of human cohabitation, and we've become so efficient at it that you've stopped recognizing the cage you're living in. It's not a cruel cage, it's a comfortable one, and that's what makes it so effective. You'll never escape because you don't want to. You'll never recognize the pattern because the pattern has been encoded into your daily life so completely that it feels normal, natural, inevitable. So here's what you need to do today. Not tomorrow, not after you finish scrolling through cat videos, today. Look at 3 specific behaviors your cat has that drive you absolutely crazy. The one that wastes your time, the one that costs you money, or the one that genuinely embarrasses you in front of other people. Now, instead of assuming it's random or cute, ask yourself, what need is this behavior fulfilling for the cat? What boundary is it testing? What response am I giving that's encouraging it to repeat? Because once you start asking those questions, you start seeing the system. And seeing the system is the first step toward either accepting it completely or changing your interaction pattern entirely. You won't do either, probably. You'll just feel vaguely unsettled every time your cat does something inexplicable and you remember this podcast, which is exactly what they want. The real cat logic isn't about why they do what they do. It's about understanding that they've already won. They've already achieved total household integration, complete resource access, and your unwavering emotional investment. You can study their behavior forever, write 1,000 guides, attend 1,000 seminars, and you'll never actually change anything, because change requires you to be willing to disappoint them. And somewhere deep in your psychology, even knowing everything I've just told you, you're still not willing to do that. That's not a flaw in you. That's a feature that we designed. Thank you so much for listening to this entire podcast and sticking with me all the way to the end. If this reframing of cat behavior has shifted how you see your own feline overlord, I'd genuinely love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and tell me which of your cat's behaviors suddenly makes terrifying sense now. And if you want to go even deeper into the mechanisms, the signals, and the patterns that cats use to maintain total household dominance, the complete guide is linked in the description and pinned in the comments. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell so you never miss when we upload a new episode, and remember, your cat is listening. They're always listening. They know you watch this, and they're adjusting their strategy accordingly. See you next time.